Tomorrow morning, I'm starting a 3.5 day water fast, which should be good for clearing my gut after the holidays. The end of each year, I always seem to eat the worst out of any other time of the year. And so the last 3 weeks has basically been full of bad food. And I also have the hiccups, which is horrible. But um, so it's good at the end of almost every year, first week of January, before I go back home from the holidays, I try to do a fast to clean up my gut. And then where I'm at right now is I'm going to try and eat pretty much all clean foods until spring. So for the first quarter of the year, going to pretty much go crazy. And then after that, will kind of depends on where I'm at or if I'm out of town or supposed to be flying to Aruba in March. And so I don't expect that I'm going to eat phenomenally there, and nor would I want to. So that's the game plan with regards to my like diet and stuff right now. Um, I got a new light for the camera. As you can see, it's actually well, you can't see the light, but you can see the shadow behind me. But it's a MagSafe light, and so it attaches to my phone. So I officially have like the full infinity stones for filming anywhere, in somewhat high quality. I've got the mic set up, and it's like this big, and it fits in my pocket, and it's like a pen. It's like the size of like a thick pen. And then I have this MagSafe light, so I should be able to film pretty well from anywhere, with a relatively high quality, whether I'm in the dark or whatever. Which is really nice because that's going to allow me to stay more consistent, but also retain the quality. And of course, over time, I'm going to try and improve that, but not so much that these videos are in any way less raw, just better. Like the shadow behind me is pretty questionable, but it's okay. Some lessons learned for today is that you may be misjudging your own skill level at something based on who you're around. And so I went to the gym today with a couple of my really good friends, and we were talking about how one of my friends says he wants to be in like the top 10% with regards to like physiques in his age group. And we both were like, other two friends to him were like, You already are." And the mistake that he's making is that he only hangs out with people who are already in the top 10% in the gym. And so he compares himself to these people and it wants to be top 10%, but the reality is he's trying to be top 10% of the 10%, which makes him the top 1%. And so basically who you're around is going to skew your image of your own self-worth because you're going to compare yourself to them. And whether that's good or bad is a different video's argument. But what I'm saying is this is what it will do, and I view this as a good thing, and it can at times be a misleading thing. It's good because if you surround yourself with people who are better than you at things, you're going to want to be better. You're going to be more competitive naturally, and then you're going to do better. But also, it skews your view of how truly good you are at things. If you're around people all day that are terrible at things, you're going to think you're really good at it until you meet people who are really good at it. If you're really good, you surround yourself with people who are really good at things, then you're going to think that you're really bad at it, but the reality is you're actually pretty good at it. And so basically who you surround yourself with and there's like abilities in certain aspects or facets of life, you're going to judge your own based on theirs, and that may not be the most accurate thing to do. Another interesting lesson that I learned today and that I myself am really bad at and need to get on is just the idea of not speaking on something that you don't know anything about, because I oftentimes notice that I either make things up or kind of assume I know more than I do, which is this thing called the Dunning-Kruger effect. Essentially, when you first learn a little bit of information about something new, you drastically overestimate your competence. And as you keep learning and learning and learning, you realize that you don't know nearly as much as you thought you did. And so you have this big spike of confidence in your like competence. So confidence, competence. So you have a huge amount of confidence with low competence. But as you learn more, your confidence goes down, and then it'll steady and it'll raise back up. So I guess it's just basically the idea that you overestimate your abilities when you first start to learn about something. And so oftentimes in conversation or just in general, I will opine or give my opinion on subjects that I know very little about, but have just recently learned so little about that I instantly think that I'm knowledgeable on that subject. and I will give my opinion and overextend my reach and act as if I know more than I do, but the reality is that I don't. And so what I'm trying to learn is to just stop giving my opinion and just listen, because by giving my opinion, I one, I'm not being true to myself. I two, I'm gonna make myself look like a fool. But also three, I'm cheating myself out of the advantage of listening and improving my competence on that subject. Because instead of talking, if I just listen to these people talk about this instead of barging in my own opinion, I actually might learn something. And so that's something that I'm trying to work on. But otherwise, as always, the battle with me is just trying to get my pride out of the way. And I think my inner driver at most is I just want to prove everybody wrong, which is probably a terrible driver. But I guess like at my core psychological motivator is the like desire to be taken seriously for what I do, and to be trusted and to be confided in by the people around me. By strangers, I don't really care much, which you might think that's not true because I'm making these videos, but these aren't really what the videos are for. These are to show people like the raw process of becoming successful, because I feel like the internet is crowded with people who only show you the good parts or only show you the interesting parts. But really 95% of it is horribly boring and repetitive, and you don't see any progress, and that's kind of what I want to embody. But as always, I'm kind of just learning each day, but the main thing that I'm chiseling down at is just the human psychological driver of just pride, and trying to put my pride aside to actually consider, like, if somebody says something that makes me upset, is it because I am actually upset about it, or is it because they're right and I don't want them to be right, because that would mean that I'm wrong, and if I'm wrong, then that means I'm a piece of shit. But that's really not how it is. Um, but yeah, that's so. I guess the two main things that I talked about today with regards to lessons is you'll over or underestimate your abilities based on the people who you're around. So if you're around people who are really good at something, you're going to drastically underestimate how good you are compared to the rest of people. And if you're around a bunch of people that are really bad at something, you're going to way overestimate how good you are at. And then you're going to be humbled pretty bad. And then the other thing um, was don't give your opinion on things that you are not competent about. The Dunning-Kruger effect is basically just you overestimate your competence level when you start to learn about a new subject. And so you might read an article about the gym and then suddenly think that you know so much about it and start giving your opinion in these conversations. But the reality is you don't know anything about it, and you shouldn't be giving your opinion. You should be listening so that you can learn more. And also, people will respect you more if you listen instead of constantly talking. But that's all for today, and I'll see you guys tomorrow.